Hey friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com. I haven't been around for a little while, so I appreciate you joining me today. About a week ago, one of my followers, Alexandra, requested that I show some Italian playing decks. Now, I'm not sure if she meant like tarot playing cards that are used actually in Italian play, or just regular Italian cards. I only happen to have Italian tarot decks that are used, daily. And I have a variety of them, and they vary also from the decks that we are accustomed to seeing. So I think you may find that interesting. I have a Sicilian deck, card playing tarot deck, a Piedmontese. These are all modern day tarot decks that one could play in a pub. The Bolognese, and then another variation of the Bolognese, two different manufacturers, one's by Del Negro and the other is Modiano. And then for good measure, I have, like a pub version, a cheap reproduction of the Primera Tarot, and I have a nice reproduction of that, I think by Giordano Berti, but this one is, like a cheap version, which makes me believe that people play with this deck to this day. It's still available. It's not out of print. And then for good measure, I thought I would throw in a Fournier Spanish deck because the scimitars of the sword suit of tarot were very similar to the Spanish, and I thought it would be nice to show those. So let me flip the camera and I'll start with each deck individually. I'm sure I've done videos on these decks before, but sometimes when you have hundreds of videos, as I do, they get buried deep and you may never find them. I'm not sure about the tags that I use, and if you don't know what tag to look for, you may never find it. So I think it's okay to resurrect and to show these Italian decks again. So I'll be right back. So let us start with the Sicilian Tarot by Modiano. They're a petite deck. The backs are lovely. So, interestingly, it says Trieste, which I don't think has anything to do with Sicily. All right, I did notice that there's a misery card in addition to a Fool card. The Sicilian deck is a little different. The noise making. We saw some tradition of a Fool being a noisemaker or a music maker. But I think it's interesting that we have two cards. You'll notice that they're not named, they're only numbered. And there's no name on that banner. And obviously the cards that we might be able to identify, such as Temperance, is not 14, but 5, right? Fortitude is not 11, but 6. Justice, etc. So there's a different order. The Wheel of Fortune is the same. And so is Death. Interestingly, the Tower card is an intact tower, and we see that in other decks. I recently did a video showing how the tower is sometimes intact. the star, the sun, excuse me, saying I'm not sure, oh, excuse me, the moon, the sun, the world, and this, I guess, would be like justice. I'm not sure. Or Zeus. Now, I probably don't have them in the correct either ascending or descending order, because I know the Italians, sometimes it's ascending and depending on the suit, and descending. So I just put them all in the same. So you see we begin with 5, the number 5, and that's the S for swords. So we have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then we have 3 court cards. We have a maid, a knight, and then some type of, oh, no, we have 4 here, okay. Then we have a queen and a king. Some of them, there's only 3. Again, we begin with 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. A maiden, a knight, a queen, and a king. Five, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Maiden, knight, queen, king. And then this one, oddly, begins with a 4. None of the other suits began with a 4. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Maiden, knight, queen, king. So isn't that peculiar? The suit of coins begins with a 4. And let me go back, because I don't think I missed it. I think they all began with a 5, which is, and I haven't lost any cards. Yeah, so swords began with a 5. Cups, which would be corresponding, also began with a 5. I don't think I had any, yeah. So isn't that strange? That's pretty odd. So if anybody can explain that, I'd be happy to hear it. Okay, now the next deck that I have is, a modern tarot playing deck of Piedmontese style. And you'll notice here that we have the double-ended, and in some cases they break the image in a funny way. I think when we see the Hanged Man, we'll see that. Now remember, I believe the Piedmontese style of, splitting the image, I think that began in 1750 or 55, something like that. And we see the butterfly that we first saw in the Vernano tarot deck from the same region, right? And the blousey pantaloons, which we see a little bit of. This looks more like a gentleman, even though it's called the female Pope. So you see the double-endedness, makes it easier to play if, you're shuffling and cards get reversed or whatnot. Just makes it easier. It's, wow, the Wheel of Fortune almost doesn't look different, does it? See, I told you the Hanged Man. Kind of funny. We miss the whole head of, how he's awake. And I imagine that you could interpret using these cards if you just memorize in your head, if you know what the meanings are, but then you're not maybe reading the deck as well, because you're, maybe reading this in a more rote kind of way or a more routine kind of way. However, if you want to read it as the deck is, the fact that he's missing his head, can become part of the reading, like, you know, lose your head maybe. Now, unlike the Sicilian Tower, we see a tower that is directly affected by something happening from the heavens. Another pretty moon card. And then we have Ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So they do play with a full set. Except, oh, you know, we have 4. I know one of these decks only has 3 court cards. Excuse me, per suit. I'm not sure. So we have the page, the knight, the queen, the king. And then we see the Ace of Cups, very much in the Piedmontese style that we did see in the Vernano, as well as the butterfly. And we see a little bit of a Swiss influence also in the cup, having, you know, like this kind of threading on the surface. I don't know the proper word for that. And this almost reminds me of the 1JJ Swiss for some reason. So it goes to show that, you know, they were influenced perhaps, or vice versa, by what was going on with Swiss cards. And my boyfriend is covering the chalice or the cup. He definitely has a cap on his head. We don't know if there's anything hanging from his hand that's missing. Oh, here it is. And the batons, and we see the batons are the aces are cudgels, right? And I wanted to mention this with the daggers of the scimitars, right? The scimitars of the swords. I'm only going to I'll show the Spanish deck after I finish showing the Italians. But, you know, that's kind of, you know, there's a crossover there too, showing the aces of the batons as cudgels rather than batons. And the, you know, the minor cards or the pip cards are not in reverse. It's just the quartz and the triumph cards. And then the last suit of coins. How lovely. Really pretty cards, the pips. I guess because I mentioned it, maybe I'll just show some Spanish cards. This deck, I have 2 decks, or maybe I have more. I don't want to open this one because it's still sealed. But I've been to Spain a few times, and we used to play with these cards. So we have the straight, right? So we don't have scimitars with the Spanish cards, which is interesting. And my great-grandmother, they said she was a tarot reader, but as she came from Spain, and you see the cudgels here, as she came from Spain, I'm guessing what she interpreted was the Spanish cards, but somehow it kind of became that she was a tarot reader. But I don't know if she read tarot or not, but at the very least, we know she read these cards. So that's a Spanish deck, Fournier. Okay, now this one is the Bolognese. And this one, One of them, yeah, the Bolognese is kind of strange. It's got a booklet. This one's by Modiano, I think. Oh, Del Negro, excuse me. We have the Fool or the Wild card. And just, so we have two kind of wild cards, I think, in addition to a Fool card. Okay, so we have two matas. And we have a music maker, which I guess is the genuine Fool card for this deck. Feathers in his hair, making music. Magician. Now these cards, you know, are kind of peculiar. There's two that are identical. So number 2 and 4 seem to be the same. I wouldn't know them, and they're not identified, so I wouldn't know them. Then we have cards that we're familiar with in a different order. You know, the Lovers is 5, Chariot is 6, Temperance is 7, Justice is 8. Interesting, because that's correct. You know, that's what we're accustomed to. Fortitude 10, the Hermit. Now here, isn't this interesting? They didn't cut off the Hanged Man at his torso. They just repeated the image. I'm glad they did that. It's much nicer. Wow, look at that. So you'll notice that the order is not the same as what we're accustomed to. But, you know, card playing can be a regional thing, right? And, you know, the last card or the ultimate card may not be what we would expect it to be. And I don't really know. I don't know if I have them in the proper order. So that's Judgment. So Judgment or the Angel is typically the last card. Okay, so we have Ace, and then we skip to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I think this is the deck with only 3. I don't know. Make a liar of me. I guess I have a false memory. So these all have 4. And the Cups, and we go from Ace, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, one of them has only 3, unless I hallucinated. Baton, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, and then coins. So, not, you know, this is an abbreviated deck, right? We don't have all the pip cards. Now, this is the Primera Bolognese, which I don't really know, you know, how it's supposed to be different. And maybe they just call it that because it's a different manufacturing company. This one's Modiano. This one was Del Negro. Okay, this is the one with only 3 core cards. I knew I hadn't hallucinated that. So yeah, for some reason, this particular deck only has 3 core cards. And then the coins. So they have different sequences, I'm sure you noticed. And then I thought it would be fun to show a Parente deck, which is just, you know, we can get the beautiful historic version from Giordano Berti. Before that was available, I had known about the Parente deck, you know, probably through Kaplan's encyclopedias or something. And I loved this deck, you know, but the only way it was available was to get it by, you know, like a really cheap publishing house. You know, the quality is not the best. Well, I don't want to be judgmental of this gentleman's publication because I'm grateful that I have it. But it's you know, less expensive than an art deck kind of, you know, it's very flexible. It's actually a good shuffler. But anyway, the Perrin is also, so the fact that it is available in this more inexpensive playing card kind of deck, I'm thinking that it's probably a deck that could be played in a pub, you know, and it has all the players and in the sequence that we're accustomed. And you may, you know, see cross references between them. I mean, you know, these, I'm sure these cards from region to region were influenced by one another. So there we have it. I mean, I think I showed you the Spanish deck already real quick, right? And of course, this is not a tarot deck. It's just a regular card playing deck, but they also eliminate certain numbers. Like we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, make a liar out of me, 7. Yeah, we stop at 7. Then we go to 10 for this suit. And then here, I guess it's the same deal. Stop at 7, then we go to 10. We have the aces. Stop at 7, go to 10. Oh, yeah. Okay, friends, I hope you enjoyed this very brief video, and I hope it was fun for you. Until next time, peace and stay well. And thank you, Alexandra, for giving me the idea for a video. Please, fellas and guys and gals, if you have ideas with videos, please send them to me. I am still on my moratorium, so I'm not buying new decks. So I'm trying to come up with ideas for decks that I already have. And you guys ever have a request that I can satisfy, I will do it. Until next time, friends, peace and stay well.